Good morning, happy Monday, and welcome to Live with Cris, an interview podcast where we can learn and grow together. I am your host, Cris Oviedo, and I want to thank you for staying with me today. And today's show is a welcoming celebration for our new HCC president, Dr. Daria Willis. Dr. Willis is the fifth president of Howard Community College. She's the first Black president to lead our school since it opened its doors 51 years ago. She's originally from Atlanta. She started her educational career in 2007 at Florida A&M University, and right before moving to Maryland and joining us here at HEC, she was serving as the president of Everett Community College in Washington State. Dr. Willis currently sits on the advisory board of the Phi Theta Kappa International College Honor Society. She also serves on the American Association of Community Colleges Commission on Diversity, Inclusion, and Equity. She was recently named an Aspen Institute Ascend Fellow dedicated to empowering children and families across the country and has been featured more than once on the national magazine Diverse Issues on Higher Education. Dr. Willis is married, the proud mother of three children, a woman of faith, a high ranking Peloton rider, from what I have seen on social media. She enjoys having conversations from her hot pink couch. She enjoys playing Kahoot and attending events on campus. She's constantly looking for ways to build pathways for success for the schools that she leads. And she does all of this while wearing very fashionable shoes. And Dr. Willis, it is my honor to be sharing this virtual space with you this morning. I want to start a conversation asking about those shoes, right? Asking about what it is like to be on your shoes as the new president of Howard Community College and being the new kid on the block. Thank you for joining me this morning and welcome.
Thank you so much for that introduction, Chris. I'm just over the moon to have this opportunity to talk to you this morning. And to your question, it's absolutely fabulous to be in my shoes as the president of Howard Community College. I am honored, blessed, just overjoyed and excited. I have been here a little over 90 days now, and I'm looking forward to a long, long tenure at the institution. Being the new kid on the block is always fun because you get to soak up as much information as you possibly can. I know our family, we have been going out and looking around and just trying to learn as much as we can about Columbia, Maryland. We went to Baltimore. We, of course, live in Columbia. We took the train to New York City a couple of weeks ago. So we're just loving the fact that we're on the East Coast, we're in the DMV. There's a lot of shopping around, there's a lot of good places to eat. And most importantly, there's just a lot of wonderful people at the college. So it's been, I mean, just absolutely amazing.
So I'm sure that, being here, being that new kid and the new president of HCC, there's been a lot of excitement. I'd love to hear more about that welcoming that you have personally maybe felt. It's been a short period of time, but I know a lot of us were trying to get a hold of you, and it took me a couple of months to get on your calendar. So, what has been your first impression, your first reaction about, our community and welcoming you as a new president here at HEC, but also in Howard County at large?
Yeah, I'll give you an example. So yesterday I had the opportunity to go to attend St. John's Baptist Church. And I'm trying to make my rounds with all the churches so that I can introduce myself to the community. And a woman walked up to me and said, I sent you an email back in January. You didn't get to respond to it, but I so want to meet with you. And I felt terrible because typically I'm really good at responding to my inbox. But it has been overwhelming to keep up. Like I come in on the weekends, sometimes on Saturdays and Sundays, just to go through my inbox to make sure that I've answered everything and gotten folks on my calendar. And that just says it has honestly been absolutely amazing with the response from the community. Everybody wants to meet and greet with me, and I want to meet them as well. But now I'm telling folks, so if we're going to meet, which is good, just know it'll probably be early May, just because my calendar is just that packed and it's been that way since I started. And it's really a wonderful feeling. Like, I like moving and grooving, I like to be busy. And just meeting all the new faces in town, the new faces for us and people at the college has just been awesome. Saturday, we were my family and I. A community member invited us to dinner, or no, actually lunch at their place, and it was wonderful because they are an elderly couple in their 70s, but they've been in the community for quite some time, and they just wanted to welcome us. And so they got on our calendars, and we went out to have lunch at their home, and it was just a wonderful experience because, before COVID, you did this kind of stuff all the time. But now, when COVID hit, and it's just good to be in a space now that we can actually fellowship with one another and see ourselves as people again. So the community has just reached out their arms for us. People are giving us all kinds of, what do you call it? Ideas and tidbits and things that we need to know about the area. The college community has been fantastic. You mentioned that Cahoots game. So I think, was it my first day? I did an introduction to the college, and then I played Cahoots. And someone asked, I think one of the questions was, do you prefer coffee or tea? And I'm not a big coffee drinker, so I said tea. And then I made the mistake of saying that I love peppermint tea. That's my favorite one, which it still is. And I mean, probably over the next month, I got every different variety or different type of peppermint tea that you could imagine. I didn't even know that there were different types of peppermint tea. I just thought it was peppermint tea, but I swear I've got mugs, I've got peppermint tea bags, enough to last me at least for a year. So, I
Mm.
mean, I'm excited. It's just a wonderful experience and truly blessed to be in these shoes.
So what I'm hearing is keep the tea coming. Just let's maybe introduce Dr. Willis to other flavors, right? It seems like
Yeah,
you're
let's just
really
other
enjoying
flavors.
to get you're really, getting to enjoy and get to know our community, and our community is excited. I know that, as a community member, as an employee here at HCC, there's a certain vibe and excitement about having a new president and everything that you bring in and your leadership, and we're all looking forward to that. And March is Women's History Month. And I think part of
Mhm.
the excitement is that we see a young president here at HCC. We see the first Black female president here at HCC. All of this creates excitement. All of this is new. All of this is different. It jumps out as out there almost, right? And it's exciting. It's like, okay, this is great. And I want to hear, a little bit about your journey, right? Because when we look at the journey of the college, we can see how it's been, what it has done, and we clearly understand where we are. And it's a great college to work for. It's a great college to be at. It's a good place, and there's a lot of room for improvement in your own personal journey as a Black female who has, you know, first of all, being the female in the room, not anything, right? We are now starting to talk more openly about race and what it means to walk on the shoes of a Black woman. I'd love to hear about that journey of what it has meant for you to walk through that journey, how you came to be the president of HCC. You went from single mom to married to mother of three to community college president, right? Talk to us about those challenges, the lessons, the victories, and the passion that keeps you going.
Oh, thank you for that question. It's interesting you asked that because even last night I said to my husband, I just can't believe that I'm here in this space because it has not been an easy road. Um, I left high school right after my junior year. I didn't have anything else to take. I was a star student, didn't have any problems with classes, and I got a full ride scholarship to Florida A&M University. And for me, it wasn't necessarily academic. I wanted to be in the marching 100 because I grew up in the band, and our band directors in my middle and high school came from FAMU. So I was like, I want to go there. And I got a scholarship and I went. I did all the things that teenagers do in college. I had all the fun, went to all the parties, got the lowest GPA at the time. And then I ended up getting pregnant at 19, or actually at 18, and I had my baby when I turned 19. So, and my daughter now, she's 17 years old. And when I see her, I see myself, and I want to make sure that she's, much better than me and doesn't make the same mistakes that I did. But yeah, I had my daughter at 19. I remember calling my mom, and I was so afraid when I got pregnant. That she would disown me and, say, I don't want anything else to do with you. But I called her and I said, Mom, before you say anything, I just want you to know that I got all of everything ready. I got on health insurance. I had a full time job or a couple part time jobs, which made it, full time pay. And I said, I can do this. And I broke the news to her that I was pregnant. And, to my surprise, and I guess I shouldn't have been surprised, but she said, I don't care what you do. You have that baby, but you better finish school. And I really took heart to that, right? So from that point forward, I still made my mistakes. I got married too early. I thought that because I came from a Black Christian home, I didn't want my mom to be upset. So I married my daughter's father at the time. That didn't last long. I ended up getting divorced. And then the story goes from there. But all throughout that time, even with the mistakes that I made, I still finished school. School was most important because my mom, she's the oldest of 8 kids. And I'm a first generation student to college because no one ever told her how to go to college. No one ever was there to say, this is what you need to do. And she grew up in rural Georgia in a time where it wasn't okay for people who look like us to go to college easily, and have open access to these institutions. So I continued on. I got my bachelor's degree from FAMU in 3 years. Then I went and did my master's degree in a year. And then I went across the railroad tracks to Florida State, because I knew one of the professors. They gave me a full scholarship to start working on my doctorate. And I'll say that all the while, even though I had full scholarships, they still didn't pay for life, like life expenses of daycare and food and housing. So I still ended up having to take out student loans, because of the how expensive it was to raise a child, at that time, and it's even more expensive now. And then the recession hit back in 2010, and I had to make a choice because I was an adjunct professor, and from being an adjunct, you didn't have a contract. So they told me that, hey, we're not going to be able to give you classes because I was teaching at Florida A&M and M and Tallahassee Community College. So I had to make a choice. I've got my daughter here. I'm her sole source of, I have to provide for this child. So what do I do next? So I went out and I went on InsideHigherEd.com, and I put out, probably 30 applications. And I kid you not, I had one callback. And the one callback I got was, at Lone Star College in Houston, Texas, as a history professor. So I went from Florida to Texas, and my mom couldn't believe it that I moved all the way to Texas, bought my first home, and I was an assistant professor of history, and I was content. I was happy. I was teaching. It was great. And then, but I wanted more, because I learned in that space as a full time faculty member that students had issues. Not that I didn't know it as an adjunct, but I had more classes, and I was still working on my doctorate at the time, but there were issues that I couldn't necessarily fix from a classroom perspective. So I wanted to learn more about what it meant to help our students, but then help a college be operational. So I moved from one of the campuses in the Lone Star system to one of the newest campuses that they were building at the time, called Lone Star College University Park. And I was one of 25 full-time faculty members. And I tell people from there, it's history, because I really had a meteoric rise into leadership. I became a faculty senate president, a department chair, all within a matter of maybe 2 to 3 years. And I learned, like, that was the incubator period for me, because I had an opportunity to sit next to all of these top level administrators and figure out how they did it and what they did it in their whys. And I began to develop my why. And I said, I want to do more for students outside of the classroom. But I hit the challenges along the way. I was young. Like, I know people say now that I look like a student, but I'm 37 years old. I got my first college presidency at 34. Typically, most people who start as a president, they're probably in their mid to late 40s or early 50s. So at the time when I was moving and progressing up the ladder, There were a lot of people who said, no, you can't do this because you're too young. You need to sit in this position for 5 to 10 years, or you need to learn a little bit more about this aspect. And I didn't want to do that. I wanted to be the author of my own future and my own fate. So I went against the grain, and, I had my eyes set on a particular focus. And I knew probably after I became a dean that I wanted to be a college president. And so for every no that I got, I turned it into a yes opportunity. And in between all of that, I got remarried to the love of my life, my best friend, Dr. Isaiah Brown. He was also working on his doctorate at FAMU in higher ed leadership, and we really connected. We got married in the courthouse. I had on a pair of jeans and a sweater that day, and we went and paid our 50 bucks, and it was the best $50 that I have invested in myself, even outside of my awesome shoes. So after that, my son came, and then we went to New York. I became a provost, and then New York to Washington. The pandemic hit, and then here I am at HCC. But I'll say that for me, it's all about, I had a lot of people to tell me no, what I couldn't do. Um, but you have to be the author of your own future. And whatever it is you want to go for, you can do that, but you got to be willing to work to make it happen. So, again, I'm just blessed to be in this position because most people don't have this opportunity. So, I plan on, and I tell people that I'm standing on the shoulders of giants, but I certainly plan on making sure that I do as much good as possible, because to whom much is given, much is required.
I hear invest in yourself, believe in yourself, listen to your heart, connect with you. And even when you've made things that maybe you think were not exactly what you had planned, continue to move forward. Find your why. That's what I heard. Find your why and go towards that. Don't let the world tell you no. As you continue to write your own story and as you continue to write, what Dr. Daria Willis is and what she does, what are you hoping to write here at HEC? What is that vision that you have for the college? When people look back 5 years from now, right, and say, oh, look at everything Dr. Willis has done so far, what is that going to look like?
Well, they won't say that I did it. They say that we did it collectively as an institution, that I merely provided the resources and the tools so that we can be the best that we can be, right? Because honestly, the president isn't the one that gets down and does the actual work of the college. We set the vision. We are the visionaries, and we say, okay, I've listened to the college, I've learned as much as I possibly can. Now, here is the vision, and this is how I'm going to support you in getting to that next level. But when I think about HCC in 5 to 10 years from now, I always now think about the pandemic and where higher education needs to be. And I just firmly believe that Howard Community College will be on the cutting edge of that. We won't be reactive as other institutions across the country have been. And that's not to say that's a negative, but we have to be in front of the curve, that we will continue to be innovative, and that students will come here and feel like no matter what color they are, where they've come from, it's about equity, inclusion, a culture of caring, and a culture of belonging for all of our students and all of the employees that come here. And that will only make us into a much better institution. So I am looking forward to continuing to cultivate the spirit of innovation. And when you walk on this campus, it's one of the things that I noticed when I first came here for my interview. And I remember saying to the trustees during our time together, like, is this for real? Are people just really this nice here? And it is true. I have never been to a college where it just seems like everyone cares about everyone else. Now, not to say that we are perfect, certainly not, because everyone, even in a family dynamic, you've got folks that you don't like, but even if you have a disagreement with someone, we are all focused on one goal, and which is providing for our students. So I want to continue to cultivate the spirit of caring and innovation. I want our curriculum to be merged with the workforce. We need to expand on community and technical education. We need to expand on more innovative methods in and outside of the classroom. And we need to be thinking about the young people who will be at this college in the next 10 years. So, for example, my son, who's almost 10 years old, when he gets to Howard Community College, what will education look like for him? Because right now, he is a digital native. That's all that he knows. He does most of his communication on a PlayStation or an Xbox. And he gets bored when he comes and sits in a classroom and he's just looking at a whiteboard. So, how are we going to innovate for the children that are coming and for the generations that will come to our doors, and even for their parents? How will we be able to provide the supports that they need, the adult student populations that we need to serve? So I'm again looking forward to us being innovative, creative, and really becoming and continuing to be an institution that will serve all of Howard County and not just certain parts of it.
I really appreciate your answer and looking at everyone, right? And thinking from the get-go is like our children, where they are today, where education and what it means today for them, and how we are going to provide those resources when they're ready for college. But also acknowledging at the same time that, as parents, I am a mom myself. I have two children, two teenagers, and I can't tell you how many times I try to play on that Xbox with my son, and I just can't get it, right? Like it's just not my nature. It's just not me. I didn't grow up with that. Right? So so
Yeah.
providing parents with that understanding, because just not just the technology, but the understanding that needs to happen, and that communication, right? Of how, for me, is like I see the Xbox and I'm like, I'm not a friend of the Xbox, right? Whereas my son, like you said,
Mhm,
socializes
mhm,
through that. So learning
mhm,
that divide and being able to work with everybody, and supporting everybody where they are, it's really
mhm,
important. And April is Community College Month.
mhm,
And I want to hear from you, Dr. Willis, right? Because I feel that community colleges are a special body. We don't have community colleges in Ecuador, where I am from. And when you're thinking about higher education, you're thinking about a four-year school, and it's really for everybody who's going for a degree. I find at a community college a special place. I find that word community to me means so, so, so much. And I think that's a real opportunity that community colleges in the United States have. I want to hear from you, though. Why is it important that we continue to fund, that we continue to care, that we continue to provide community college education in our communities, for lack of a better word, right? Why is it important that we all support them, so that HCC can continue to be a vital part of our community
mhm.
here for years to come?
And I appreciate this question because it's one where I believe as community colleges, we need to go back to the mission of why we were founded to begin with. We were meant to be educational institutions that responded to the changes in the environment and just the things that our communities required and needed. Now, while I am certainly a fan of our four-year partners, there is a disconnect between the university systems and the people that they serve because that was not the way that they were intended. So I'll leave that there in a box. But if I compartmentalize, and the second reason I think our community colleges are important is because they provide a voice to the voiceless. They help to educate the masses, and we are open access. So I don't care how you started or how you plan to finish or where you come from. There's not an admissions committee that's going to look at your application and say, yes, you can come and no, you can't, because somebody like you will have a negative or a positive impact on our graduation rates and things of that nature. We take everyone. And think about all of the other institutions in society that'll tell you no, but a community college will tell you yes. And we will have the resources and the support, even when we are straining ourselves to give you that. People will give their whole selves to support our students. And so I'm one that will go to our elected officials and advocate in the community to continue to support our community colleges because they are the ones that will help. We are the economic drivers to making sure that our regions are successful as we move forward. So, and I'll give another example. There's been a trend lately that some community colleges are dropping community out of their name and just saying name college because I guess they don't want to be associated with the community aspect of it. And I absolutely think that that's criminal because that helps us realize and maintain who we are as institutions who were meant to serve our communities. So I tell folks that community is our middle name, that we will always be in service to our communities, and we would hope that our communities would continue to advocate for the education that community colleges provide. So community college April is community college month, but I'm gonna still what is McDonald's says 365 black. I'm 365 community colleges, not just in April. But it's more about making sure and ensuring that we provide a two-generational approach to education, that it's not just about the student, but it's also about their children. So if I'm a parent, and I was that parent, where I had to bring my daughter to campus with me and endure the stares of folks when I brought her into the library, and she's a toddler, she's bored out of her mind in this big dusty dark library with all these books. Why does she need to be there in that space and constantly, can you imagine telling a toddler to be quiet? So how do in a library, so how do we change our colleges so that it's open to all? And that's what we get at community colleges. So I'm super passionate about our mission. I have dedicated the entirety of my career to who we help, but this is also my space to where I can practice social justice and equity and inclusion. You won't find me marching out on the street, but you will find me providing the voices and the tools necessary so that our students can cultivate who they want to be in society as they give back as citizens and are knowledgeable about the things that we are seeing today. So, community colleges are central to that. They are central to a democratic society, and they will continue to be central to how we will function as a country as we continue to move forward.
A place where you can come without fear because you know that the answer is going to be yes. I absolutely
Exactly.
love that, and I am really looking forward to that, here at HEC with you, Dr. Willis. It's already that kind of place, and it just sounds and it just looks like it's gonna continue to expand on that. We only have about 5 minutes left. The conversation has really, the 30 minutes really felt like 2 minutes, to be honest with you. But, I do have 5 rapid questions that I wanna end our segment with today, so that we can get to know you a little bit better. And you have to answer with, a sentence, a word, just quick answers. So,
Okay.
the first question I have for you is the best advice someone has ever given you.
Everyone is replaceable. So always have a plan B.
Have a plan B. Worst advice someone has ever given you.
um, you can't do it because you're too young. So try
Mm.
something else.
Okay, if we asked your kids to describe you with 6 words, I gave 2 words to each one of your kids, right? What 6 words would they use?
That's a tough one. Because I know what they would say. My husband calls me Sergeant Willis, so that'll give you. uh, mm, I'm loving, caring, but I'm tough. Uh, um, I hold my kids to high standards, and mommy don't play that. So that's more than 6 words, but there it is.
That's perfect. It's absolutely perfect. All right. What's one mistake? Usually people tell you, they ask you about the mistake that you want to take away. I actually want to ask you about that one mistake that you made that you would do all over again.
Oh. One mistake that I made that I would do all over again, I wouldn't get married. When I got pregnant, I thought that it was right to get married because I had the traditional mindset of what it meant to be a family. That girl going back to 19 and 20 years old, that is not necessary. Do you raise that baby by yourself? Because it ain't gonna do nothing but bring you a bunch of heartache later. Because I got divorced and all that, all that mess later. So that's the one mistake that I can honestly say. My baby was never the mistake, but stepping into the shoes of married life too soon was certainly something that I would go back and redo in a heartbeat.
Hmm. We could go into a whole another 30 minutes just about off of that
Yeah,
answer,
we can
but
have a
we
whole
only have
session on that.
yes. If you could make one rule, this is your last final question. If you could make one rule that everybody in the world must follow, what would that be?
Be nice. Treat others the way that you want to be treated. I think civility is becoming a thing of the past these days. Smile, greet people, just be nice. You don't want anybody talking down about you, so don't do it to them. And just help one another. That's all.
Dr. Willis, thank you so much. I really enjoyed our conversation. I know people are probably wondering where can I, continue to connect with Dr. Willis? Where can we find out more? Where can we stay tuned to what's happening at HCC? So what are the best ways in which everybody can stay connected with you?
I'm all over social. I'm still learning Snapchat, so don't hold that against me yet. But you can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Howard CC Prez. I'm also on Facebook at Dr. Daria J. Willis. And I'm out and about in the community, all over campus. So don't be afraid to stop by. You can certainly email me at any time at dwillis@howardcc.edu.
Is there anything that I haven't asked you that you are like, "Oh, I hope Chris or I wish Chris would ask me this question." Anything or any just message that you want to leave everybody with today before we wrap our conversation up?
Well, when you mentioned the Xbox, I'll say that I have a PS5 in the office just so I can learn what my kid is doing and how we can use this in education. So I just wanted to throw that in there. So anybody listening that's a parent like me or like us, figure out how you can think outside of the box because our kids are using this technology to be social, and we need to be two steps ahead of them.
And it's not easy. I know that I try, but it's it's really not easy.
It ain't
But I thank you
easy.
so much. No, it is not easy. I thank you so much, Dr. Willis, for being so open, so candid, so share so much about you with us today. Um, I'm really excited to hear, that vision, that heart that you just shared today of connecting, being open, saying yes, and finding those visions, those opportunities, staying ahead, like you just said right now, staying two steps ahead, like really looking into what education is today, what it's going to look like in the future, and how we can continue to use that to just create a better community for all. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed this conversation, how much I'm looking forward to your leadership here at Howard Community College. And I appreciate your time today. I thank you for being with me. And I want to also thank everybody for listening, for watching, for sharing this. We have a wonderful new president here at HCC, and I know that our community has opinions, and I know that we have ideas. And Dr. Willis, she just gave us all of the ways in which we can connect with her. And she also said that her door is open, that she wants to listen to what our community wants because she believes that HCC can be that place and needs to be that place, that partner for our community to continue to grow. So thank you, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Share this with your family, with your friends, with everybody. And until next time, I am Cris Oviedo.